Brilliant leadership is taking a multi-dimensional approach, doing, being and relating, or what we call I, we and it. In fact, if you look at the great leadership speeches in history, and usually Martin Luther King comes right at the top, he said, I have a dream that we Americans are going to do this. So that's I, we, it. That's really the essence of great leadership. It's a multi-dimensional approach rather than a one-dimensional approach. So we have to recognize there are human beings, and these human beings relate to each other in the service of solving the problem. Our ability to solve problems is hugely dependent on the quality of our thinking. When we feel under pressure, whether it's a deadline for a certain project, whether it's presenting in front of people or doing a town hall, there's a natural biological response that happens in all human beings. The signal that our heart generates goes into chaos, and that can inhibit our frontal lobes. Now, 200,000 years ago, that gave us survival advantage, because when we're faced with a threat, maybe a bear wants to eat us, we have to shut off our smart thinking in order to survive. So our thinking becomes binary under pressure. But here we are 200,000 years later, and we still have the same mechanism. So leaders in organizations often trigger this biological brain shutdown under pressure. So the first step in getting people to be brilliant every day is to teach them how to stop that happening. So many people will have experienced, either in the sporting setting or in a work meeting, things just start to flow. Biologically, what's happening is we become coherent. The patterns that our heart creates are like a sine wave. It's a coherent waveform that goes from our heart to our brain and turns our brain on. One of the first things that people can do is, number one, get their breathing under control. Now, there are 12 different dimensions to the breath you can control. The single most important dimension is rhythm. It's not deep breathing. So when people say, you're going to that meeting, take a few deep breaths, I say, don't bother, that won't help your brain. So if you learn to breathe rhythmically, that stabilizes your physiology. Tip number 2 is, once you've got stabilized biology, start to look at what emotional state you're in and practice changing emotional states. Now, if you can turn an emotional state on demand, and this requires practice, then you can show up in a more effective way. So once you've got your biology under control, and then you learn to control your emotional state, which is the second step, the third step is to do that every single day. So it's simply a practice phenomena. So you can turn up with your frontal lobe switched on, give your best performance every single day. And if you can do that, you've become completely coherent under your own control.